The day I reborn and got the marriage certificate, I switched partners and got married. On February 14th, Valentine's Day, the day we were supposed to register our marriage, I fell in love with someone else. I outright dumped my current girlfriend, Luna, and picked a different person to register with. She had no idea about any of it. In my previous life, my girlfriend Luna, for the sake of her male close friend Dylan, flat out snubbed me and asked me to postpone the date for registering our marriage. All because her male close friend Dylan suddenly developed a severe case of depression. She insisted on immediately taking her male close friend to see a psychiatrist. I agreed, but later, after I waited for several months, I received the news that she and Dylan were going to register their marriage. On the way to see her, I had a car accident and was left disabled for life. My career plummeted. My parents Margaret and Richard went gray overnight, and my younger sister Mia even dropped out early to work in a factory to help support the family. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day Luna and I registered our marriage. This time, I won't make the same mistakes again. She can accompany whoever she wants to see a doctor. It's none of my business. Dylan has severe depression. I need to take him to see a psychiatrist. Can we register our marriage after I come back? Okay. Luna's voice was full of urgency. I looked dazedly at Luna in front of me. Her anxious expression made my heart tighten. I instinctively glanced around. The familiar scene, familiar things. Everything was so real, yet as if veiled by a thin gauze. I can finally be sure. I really have been reborn. At that moment, Luna's furious voice came. Did you hear that? Are you deaf? Her tone was already somewhat impatient, brows furrowed, disappointment flashing across her eyes. I couldn't help getting teary-eyed, mainly because the joy of being reborn was just too overwhelming. Can you at least have some conscience? Don't think that just because you cried I'll abandon him. I already told you, after I come back, we'll definitely register our marriage. There's no need to rush right this minute. Ethan, when will you learn to be reasonable? He only has me. If I don't save him, he'll die. I slowly lifted my eyes and stared straight at her. At this moment, her heart was full of worry for Dylan. No matter what I said, she would argue with me. I said calmly, fine, go. After getting my permission, Luna turned and left the Civil Affairs Bureau without looking back. She walked quickly and with determination, as if she feared that if she hesitated even a second, Dylan would drift away from her. A staff member kindly handed me a tissue, their eyes filled with deep sympathy. She spoke softly, her voice reluctant. Sir, do you still need? I didn't wait for the clerk to finish speaking. I hurriedly wiped the tears from my cheeks with a tissue. With an excited, almost out of control look, I cut her off. Wait, can I change the person I'm registering with? The clerk was clearly a bit stunned by my sudden action. She froze in place, her expression complex and hard to read. After a moment, she let out a soft sigh, her voice low and clear. In theory, it's possible. Hearing that, I was so excited I almost jumped for joy. My hands trembling, I took my phone out of my pocket and quickly dialed that all-too-familiar number. Hey, Ethan, what's so urgent that you had to call me? I try to make my voice sound as calm as possible. Sophia, can you come to the Civil Affairs Bureau entrance right now? I have something very important to tell you. After a short while, Sophia appeared at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau, sweating profusely. She obviously came running, with fine beads of sweat still on her forehead. She looked at me, anxiety flashing in her eyes. Ethan, are you really telling the truth? If you dare lie to me, I'll definitely beat you to death. I looked at her, my eyes slightly reddening, tears once again blurring my vision. Of course it's real, sophomore. I was originally going to register my marriage with someone else today, but I've realized that the person I truly want to spend my life with is you. Sophia reached out and gently wiped the tears from the corner of my eye, her movements tender and delicate. What's wrong? Weren't you supposed to register with Luna today? Where did she go? I took a deep breath, dropped to one knee, and looked at her with resolute eyes. Sophia, will you marry me? Sophia looked at me, surprise and emotion flashing in her eyes. She answered softly, of course. Why else would I have left work and come running? To make fun of you. She and I have known each other for over 10 years. You could say we were childhood sweethearts. It all felt like the work of fate. This time I'll take good care of her, not let her, like in the last life, work hard caring for me. In the last life, Luna, just like now, suddenly stood me up. Although I tried my best to hold her back, she still chose Dylan. She abandoned me on the day we were supposed to register our marriage. In that moment, it felt as if my heart had been struck hard, and a foreboding washed over me. That disappearance lasted for many long months. During those months, I kept my phone by my side every day, hoping to hear her voice or receive a message from her. I imagined countless times that she would suddenly appear before me, smiling as she explained everything. Time passed second by second, but I never waited to see her return. My family and friends saw it all and worried about me. They all urged me to give up on Luna, saying that treating you like this isn't worth waiting for. But I was like someone under a spell, unable to hear any of their advice. In my heart, I kept making excuses for Luna, thinking she must have some hidden hardships. Maybe once she sorted out Dylan's matters, she would return to my side. And so, I foolishly waited and waited, each day unbearably agonizing. At last, that day still came. What I waited for was the news that she and Dylan had registered their marriage. In that moment, I felt like my whole world had collapsed. Anger, despair, and pain intertwined, making it almost impossible for me to breathe. I was trembling with fury, my mind in utter chaos. On the way to the airport, I was distraught and completely unobservant. Suddenly, a car came speeding toward me. Before I could react, I was hit and thrown. When I regained consciousness, I was already lying on a hospital bed. Although my life was saved, I was left permanently disabled and would have to live the rest of my life wearing prosthetics. In that moment, I felt utterly desperate, as if my life had lost all meaning. My career also plummeted because of the accident. The former glory was gone, and everything turned to nothing. My parents Margaret and Richard saw me become like this, and their hair turned white overnight. Their eyes were full of helplessness and pain, yet they were powerless. My younger sister Mia felt even more heartbroken for me. To lessen the family's burden, she unhesitatingly chose to drop out and work. Seeing her frail figure, I was filled with guilt and self-reproach. After I became disabled, Luna and Dylan, perhaps out of guilt, came back to see me once. The moment I saw Luna, persistently brought up getting our marriage certificate again, my eyes full of hope and pleading. Ethan, it's not that I despise you. It's that my parents will despise you. I can't marry you. Give up that thought. Luna looked at me coldly, without a trace of pity in her eyes. I clenched my teeth, the pain in my heart spreading like a burst dam. But I'm doing this for you. I shouted hoarsely, my voice filled with endless grievance and anger. Luna raised her proud head and looked down at me, her gaze as if she were looking at a stranger. So what? It's not like I asked you to come find me. Her words were like a sharp blade, piercing my heart painfully. Good thing I'm marrying Dylan now. Otherwise, I'd have to take care of you, this cripple, for the rest of my life. That would be such a waste. She continued, her tone full of contempt and disdain. Dylan looked smug and chimed in, his voice tinged with schadenfreude. Luna, I told you he's a miserable soul, but you didn't believe me. Now do you believe me? They even deliberately flirted in front of me. Those intimate gestures made me feel unbearably disgusted and angry. My emotions collapsed instantly, and I shouted at them to get out. After becoming a wreck, I once wanted to end it myself, to completely leave this world that brought me so much pain. I felt that I no longer had the courage or reason to go on living. However, just as I plunged into the abyss of despair, Sophia appeared. Not only did she not disdain the fact that I was disabled, she devoted herself wholeheartedly to taking care of me. During our time together, I gradually discovered that she had secretly liked me for 10 years. But I didn't want to hold her back, so I turned down Sophia's proposal. In the end, I grew old alone. The staff finished processing the documents in no time. It turned out that getting a marriage certificate wasn't all that troublesome. I thought it would be a series of tedious procedures and a pile of complicated formalities, but it turned out to be surprisingly smooth. Holding that bright red marriage certificate in my hand, My heart was filled with mixed emotions. But Luna, upon hearing that Dylan had depression, wouldn't even spare me a few minutes. I had assumed that, in her heart, I still mattered at least a little. But now it seems I was nothing more than someone insignificant who could be discarded at any time. She turned away so decisively, leaving with not a trace of reluctance. In that moment, I clearly understood who mattered more to her. It was obvious at a glance. In my previous life, it was as if my mind had been clouded with lard. I actually convinced myself I would marry no one but her. I was unbelievably foolish back then. My whole heart and mind were filled with her. For her, I would risk everything. The warnings from family and friends are like a breeze in my ears, passing through without sinking in. I simply wouldn't listen. I even thought they were deliberately trying to break us up, convinced they didn't understand me and didn't support me. Looking back now, I was hopelessly beyond help. Luckily, fate gave me a chance to choose again. I can't make the same mistake twice. Sophia still stared at the marriage certificate in her hand with a look of disbelief. Her eyes were wide, and her gaze revealed a complex mix of confusion and delight. We're really married? Her voice trembled slightly, as if she still couldn't accept the fact. I looked at her, adorable and a little dazed, and couldn't help but show affection in my eyes. Yes, wife. Those two words left my mouth with a firmness and gentleness. Sophia's face flushed bright red at once. What did you just call me? Her voice was a little shy. Wife, what's wrong? Do you regret it? I'm telling you, there's no regret medicine with me. I teased her on purpose, the corners of my mouth lifting slightly. Unable to resist, I reached out and pinched Sophia's cheek. Her skin was soft and felt nice. You can only be my wife in this life, Ethan Johnson's wife. No one can take you away. I stared intently into her eyes and said seriously. Sophia rushed into my arms, trembling and unable to stop sobbing. Her tears soaked my clothes. I could feel how excited and happy she was in that moment. I don't regret it at all. I've been waiting for this day for a long time, she said, her voice choked with tears. All right, let's spend the rest of our lives together and never be apart. I held her tightly in my arms, as if I wanted to melt her into my body. Suddenly, it was as if I had thought of something. Right, in a few days, I'll personally go to your home to deliver the dollar betrothal gift. I knew this was tradition and also a way to show respect for her and her family. Sophia nodded. I'll tell my parents Emma and Thomas to prepare the dowry, don't worry. She looked at me, her eyes full of trust and love. After returning home, I gently pushed the door open, my steps light and relaxed. My younger sister Mia was sitting on the living room sofa. She looked up as soon as I came in. A worried expression instantly appeared on her originally calm face. Her gaze locked onto me. She hurried over to stand in front of me and asked anxiously, "Bro, are you okay?" I looked at my sister's concerned face, a warm feeling rising in my chest, and answered cheerfully, "What could I possibly be up to? Isn't Luna accompanying her guy best friend Dylan abroad? How can you still be smiling?" My younger sister Mia's voice carried confusion and puzzlement. She widened her eyes and stared at me intently. "Oh, that fast?" I feigned surprise, opening my mouth wide, a look of astonishment flashing across my face. But what does that have to do with me? I have nothing to do with her anymore. At that moment, Mom Margaret came out of the kitchen, her gaze landing directly on me. Her eyes urgent, hands wiping the apron, looking somewhat nervous. "Did you get the marriage certificate?" I looked at my mother's eyes, full of expectation. "We're registered." After saying that, I straightened my back slightly. My sister Mia, upon hearing it, instantly panicked. She stamped her foot hard and shouted loudly, "Damn, how can Luna do this? She's already registered as your wife, and yet she's all tangled up with another man." Her face flushed bright red with anger, her eyes flashing with fury, and her hands unconsciously balled into fists. "Brother, to be honest with you, I don't really like Luna being my sister-in-law." At those words, Mom Margaret let out a deep sigh. She slowly shook her head, her eyes revealing helplessness and worry. Watching them worry about me, I felt an inexplicable sting in my heart. Yes, in the last life, When they learned that Luna had left me for Dylan, they reacted the same way. Back then they felt pain and sorrow for me, while I, blinded by love, remained stubbornly deluded. Thinking of this, I hugged them to my chest with a pang in my heart, my voice a little choked. I missed you so much. I thought I'd never see you again. Mom Margaret and my younger sister Mia were startled by my sudden outpouring of emotion. Mom's body stiffened slightly. She hurriedly pushed me away and asked anxiously, "Son, don't scare Mom. Are you hiding something from us?" "Yeah. Brother, are you going to die?" My sister Mia burst into tears. She cried as she clutched my arm tightly. "Forget it. I'm too lazy to tease them." I raised an eyebrow slightly. I did get the marriage certificate, but not with Luna, with Sophia. My younger sister Mia exclaimed, her eyes wide and her face full of disbelief. "What? Are you talking about Sister Soph?" Mom Margaret frowned in disbelief, her eyes fixed on me. "Son, don't lie to us just to make us happy." "Why would I lie to you?" "No fake. I'm really registered as married to Sophia." I took the marriage certificate out of my pocket, feeling even more excited than they were. My sister Mia was quick and snatched it, holding it and looking it over from left to right. Their eyes were full of suspicion and vigilance, afraid I was making a fake certificate to deceive them. Mom Margaret took it and looked at it again carefully, muttering continuously. Could this certificate be fake? I looked at their doubtful expressions, feeling a bit helpless, and my tone was somewhat exasperated as I explained. "I swear to you, this certificate is real. Sophia and I are now a state-recognized married couple." My younger sister Mia still didn't quite believe it. "Sis Soph, why didn't she come back with you?" I patiently said, "She's in a meeting. She'll come over as soon as it's over." We had arranged for both families to have a meal together. The atmosphere at that meal was initially somewhat awkward. Sophia's parents, Emma and Thomas, sat at the table, worry never leaving their expressions. They kept wondering to themselves why, all of a sudden, their usually well-behaved daughter had registered her marriage. This was truly beyond anything they had expected. In their impression, their daughter's life had always been very orderly. They had also never heard of her ever having a boyfriend. Sophia's mother, Emma, would occasionally sneak a glance at her daughter and then at me, her eyes full of puzzlement and incomprehension. Fortunately, they still had complete trust in their child. Sophia has always been very easy for them to worry about, both in her studies and in life, and she has always had good judgment. So, although they were full of questions, they didn't make things difficult for me. Thus, the two families gradually relaxed and happily began to enjoy the meal together. Everyone chatted and laughed, and the atmosphere gradually became light and pleasant. The next day, I went to formally ask for her hand as agreed. As soon as I stepped through Sophia's front door, I felt a warm yet slightly tense atmosphere. Sophia's parents, Emma and Thomas, warmly invited me to sit, their eyes showing a bit more expectation. My mother, Margaret, enthusiastically asked for mine and Sophia's birth dates and times to calculate an auspicious day. I knew in my heart that Mom was eager for us to hold the banquet soon, wanting this matter to be settled as quickly as possible. When I told my friends the news, my friends were all startled when they heard that Sophia and I were getting married. They widened their eyes, faces full of disbelief. One of the friends couldn't help but say, "You're kidding, right? How did you suddenly marry Sophia? What about Luna? Did something happen to you? You just picked someone at random to settle down with." The other friends chimed in as well, their expressions full of doubt and concern. I looked at their surprised faces and couldn't help feeling a bit helpless. For a moment, they really found it hard to accept the fact. After all, I used to love Luna so deeply. But now, I have completely let go of the past. Whenever I think of the foolish things I did for Luna in the past, I can't help but shake my head secretly. Now, I just want to cherish the person in front of me and start my life over. I didn't tell them that I'm a reborn person. If I said that, they'd definitely think I'd been really traumatized and might even send me to a psychiatric hospital. Because some things, once spoken, can cause even more trouble. In the days that followed, Sophia and I began busily preparing for the wedding. We discussed the wedding details together. From the ceremony schedule to the venue decorations, we carefully considered every aspect. Somehow the news of my marriage to Sophia reached Luna's ears. 3 days before my wedding to Sophia, Luna found me and asked to meet at a cafe beneath the company building. Before I could speak, Luna was the first to break the silence. "You're getting married?" There was a faint mixture of disbelief and panic in that tone. I nodded slightly and admitted directly, "Yes." "When did you two get together?" Luna's voice was clearly tinged with dissatisfaction. Her brow furrowed slightly, and an urgent look showed in her eyes. I felt somewhat agitated and answered evasively, "Aren't you getting married too? Is this question very important to you?" Luna instinctively avoided my gaze. "How did you know?" I didn't say anything, just looked at her coldly. At this moment, I no longer had the feelings I once did for her. Only endless disappointment and distance remained. Luna noticed my indifference, her voice choked, and her eyes gradually reddened. "Listen to me. The doctor said Dylan's depression was caused by wanting so badly to marry me. Give me some time. As soon as he gets better, I'll come back to you." She gently wiped the tears from the corner of her eye with her hand, looking pitiful and vulnerable. However, my heart felt as if it had been filled with a cold stone, without the slightest ripple. I said coldly, "No need. You two can stay locked together forever." My voice was firm and resolute, without the slightest hesitation. Heaven gave me a chance to be reborn, and I'm not going to waste it on Luna. There are many more meaningful things in life waiting for me to do. I can't let her disturb my life anymore. I don't want to get drawn into the complicated relationship between her and Dylan anymore. Sophia is the one I truly deserve to cherish. I know you're angry right now. You won't listen to anything I say. Please believe me, I really love you. Marrying him was only to ensure he could leave without any regrets. Luna's eyes were bloodshot as she looked at me, as if she were about to burst into tears at any moment. Looking at Luna's face, which was as familiar as could be, I suddenly felt a bit of strangeness. The way she gave everything for someone else seemed to mock my previous efforts, utterly foolish. Seeing that I said nothing, Luna grew a little anxious. Her voice grew urgent. "Ethan, everything I've said is true. You have to believe me." Immediately after, she began talking to herself, her tone tinged with resignation. "Fine. I won't force you to remain chaste for me. I'm at fault in this matter too." She lowered her head and sighed softly. "We both make concessions. If you want to marry Sophia, then marry her. But when the time comes, after Dylan gets better, you must divorce Sophia and marry me. It will be an easy thing for both of us." How did Luna have the nerve to make such a request? I only felt an overwhelming sense of absurdity and ridicule. So it turned out that, to her, marriage was such a trivial game. Did she think this was playing house like when we were kids? As expected, you still have to marry someone whose values align with yours. I didn't speak. The only response Luna got was my departing back. I didn't want to stay here for another moment, as if lingering even 1 second more would taint me with her stupidity and selfishness. After I got home, I told my wife Sophia about it. She listened quietly, her face showing no expression. After a moment, she said slowly, "Ethan, don't worry, I won't doubt you. I know that your marrying me wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision." I looked at my wife Sophia, whose face was earnest. In the end, I still decided to tell her that I was a reborn person. When I finished speaking, Sophia seemed not very affected by it. She simply smiled briefly. Life is unpredictable, with sudden changes and upheavals. It's like a drama whose ending cannot be foreseen, always taking unexpected turns when you least expect them. Back from the honeymoon with my wife Sophia. That day, while chatting with a friend, he hesitated for a moment, then slowly told me. "Luna was in a car accident. Her condition isn't looking good. She may be left permanently disabled." Hearing the news, my heart went calm as still water, and a strange curiosity surged up inside me. When my friends saw I was interested, they immediately perked up, their eyes slightly brightening, and began to tell the story vividly. It turned out that someone, who knows which tattletale, had blown the whistle on Dylan's fake depression marriage scam. When Luna learned this truth, she completely fell apart. She felt like a fool, toyed with by Dylan at his whim. Her heart, full of fury and grievance, made her lose her reason. After the argument, Luna still couldn't calm down. She stormed out the door in a rage. At that moment, she had only one thought in her mind: to get as far away as possible from this man who made her feel utterly revolted. However, fate played a cruel joke on her at that very moment. She had a car accident. After listening to my friend's account, countless images flashed through my mind, and a nagging sense of déjà vu lingered in my heart. I couldn't help but frown slightly and fall into contemplation. This scene, this experience, how is it so similar to what I went through in my previous life? I thought I had nothing to do with this matter. After all, Luna and I were already strangers. Now we were each walking different paths and should have no more intersections. But who would have guessed, in less than 2 days, Luna's parents showed up and insisted I go to the hospital to see Luna. That day, I finished overtime as usual and, dragging my tired body, was about to leave the company. Just as I reached the company entrance, I saw Luna's parents standing there, their eyes showing anxiety and expectation. I frowned, a wave of irritation rising in me. How is it like this again? Why does this family always like to block the company entrance and wait for people when others are leaving work? Don't they know this will cause trouble for others? Luna's mother rushed over as soon as she saw me, grabbed my arm, and cried her heart out. Her sobs sounded especially harsh. Ethan, I know Luna wronged you, but she has a lot she wants to tell you. If you don't go, she won't cooperate with the hospital's treatment. She continued, her voice trembling from crying. For the 7 years you two were together, just go to the hospital and take a look. Luna's father went so far as to kneel down, banging his forehead against the ground several times. The heavy thuds of his prostrations echoed across the floor, making my chest tighten. Yes, Ethan, we're kneeling to you. Go to the hospital and see my daughter. She knows she was wrong. Saving a life is more meritorious than building a 7-story pagoda. Have mercy on our daughter. He looked up, his eyes full of expectation, hoping I would agree to their request. I sneered. Truly a family, always in a moral blackmail. I thought over, and I still refused. I forced my voice to stay calm. I'm sorry, she and I are no longer involved, so it's not appropriate for me to go. There's no point in going when the relationship isn't legitimate. I can't be obliged to visit just because I'm an ex-boyfriend. I won't set that precedent. Call me cold or unfeeling if you like. If something else goes wrong later, who knows what kind of mess could erupt. I don't want to get dragged into endless trouble. Besides, we each have our own families now. If someone who doesn't know the situation saw this, who knows what kind of misunderstanding might arise. Rumors don't care about the truth. Once they spread, they'll only bring unnecessary trouble to me and my family. The next day, I prepared to start the day's work as usual. Just then, the office door was gently pushed open and my sister Mia hurried in. I heard Luna's parents came to see you yesterday. What do they want? There was a tone of earnestness that brooked no doubt. It seems that if I don't come up with some sort of explanation today, she absolutely won't let me off. I sighed inwardly, knowing there was no avoiding this matter. So I simply told her, in detail, everything that had happened yesterday. My sister Mia, upon hearing it, had the anger spread across her face in an instant. Her brows were tightly knotted, anger flashing in her eyes, her lips trembling slightly. I'm telling you, bro, you must not abandon Sister Soph, and you have to make up with Luna like before. I smiled helplessly, thinking to myself that my sister really did protect Sophia. I hurriedly said, am I the kind of person who abandons his wife? My sister Mia's gaze traveled back and forth over me, full of suspicion and scrutiny. She said coldly, if you do anything to wrong Sister Soph, Mom and Dad and I definitely won't let you off. I could feel the strong warning in her words, and I felt a bit helpless and a bit amused. To calm my sister Mia, I compromised, waved my hand, shrugged, and said, even if you gave me 10 guts, I still wouldn't dare. In fact, my sisters Mia and Sophia had already become like close girlfriends. They talked about everything and were very close. And my parents, Margaret and Richard, had long since been full of praise for Sophia. In my heart, I had long hoped Sophia could become their daughter-in-law. Not long after, Mom Margaret called. On the other end of the line, her voice sounded somewhat anxious. "Son, I heard Luna's parents went to see you yesterday. What on earth happened?" I patiently explained the whole sequence of events to Mom in detail once more. To put her at ease, I solemnly promised, "Mom, don't worry, I will never let Sophia down." In the blink of an eye, more than 5 months had passed. The news that my wife Sophia had successfully conceived. It filled the household with an indescribable joy. That evening, dusk fell and the sky slowly darkened. As usual, I went downstairs to take out the trash. When I walked up to the trash can, just as I was about to toss the rubbish in, my gaze casually fell on Luna, sitting in a wheelchair not far away. Her figure looked somewhat lonely under the streetlight. "Ethan, long time no see." Her voice sounded somewhat abrupt in the quiet night, shattering that brief tranquility. A complex emotion surged in my heart. There was disgust, helplessness, and more than anything an urge to get away as quickly as possible. I wanted to turn and leave, as if lingering another second would make me unbearably irritated. However, Luna seemed to have noticed my thoughts. She hurriedly called out to stop me, her voice dejected and resentful. "Ethan, don't go yet. I have something to say." I stopped in my tracks, looking at her familiar yet disgusting face. I had originally planned to pull off a polite fake smile to brush her off and get away as quickly as possible. But the moment I saw her, all my pretenses vanished. I couldn't force a smile no matter what. I kept a cold expression, my tone impatient. "We have nothing left to say at this point." Luna slightly raised her head, her eyes full of grievance. "Ethan, don't be like this. I came specifically to find you. Can't you let me finish what I have to say?" I paused. Although still irritated, I decided to hear her out and find out what she wanted to say. "All right, go ahead." Luna cautiously probed, her eyes fixed firmly on me. "Ethan, did you also get reborn, which is why you're treating me like this in this life?" I was momentarily stunned, a wave of astonishment welling up inside me. I hadn't expected Luna to have come back too. The news caught me off guard. Seeing my stunned expression, Luna gave a bitter smile, that smile filled with anguish and helplessness. As I thought, it's like this. Pain showed in Luna's eyes as she slowly lowered her head. "In your last life, you were willing to give up your life for me. In this life, you cut ties with me at the first opportunity." I looked at her with an expressionless face, the irritation in my heart growing increasingly intense. Those painful memories from my past life surged over me like a tide, and I forced myself to suppress my emotions. "Luna, will you ever stop? In my last life, I must have been blind to have taken a liking to you. This life, of course, I'll keep my distance from you. What's wrong with that? Ethan, if I admit I was wrong, could you give me one chance to make it up to you?" Her voice trembled slightly, with a faint, barely noticeable sob. My chest tightened suddenly, and a pang of sorrow swept through me like a tide. Mixed in with that sorrow were memories of the past. Moments once shared flashed through my mind like a movie. Thinking back to before, every time she and I argued. As soon as she showed that look, the anger in my heart would vanish in an instant, replaced by an inexplicable pity. I would unconsciously run over smiling to coax her, carefully soothing her emotions. But now, everything has changed beyond recognition. I gave a light, humorless laugh. "Luna, are you really that uninteresting? Compensate me?" I repeated her words mechanically, the mockery in my tone becoming more pronounced. Each word felt squeezed out through my teeth, carrying a deep disgust. "The best compensation you can give me in this life is to stay away from me and never appear in front of me again." Luna's eyes showed disbelief. Her brows knitted tightly, and she made a painful, muffled sound. "Ethan, we were lovers in 2 lifetimes. We nearly could have become husband and wife. Don't you have any feelings for me at all? How can you be so heartless?" Hearing the reproach in Luna's words, a surge of anger rose in me. This is utterly outrageous. All those past hurts, those betrayals. Has she truly forgotten them? And now she comes to accuse me of being heartless. It's simply laughable and infuriating. Ethan, I know I was wrong. Look, I'm being punished now. Let's get back together. As she spoke, tears couldn't be held back. They welled up and ran down her cheeks. But to me, this was nothing more than a self-indulgent performance. Watching her cry, I felt no pity. Instead, I couldn't help but want to laugh. Not until now did I realize my disgust for her had reached its peak. This revulsion wasn't just because of what she had done in the past, but because of her current hypocrisy and affectation. Get back together? I spat the words coldly, my gaze full of contempt. I took a deep breath and immediately began to speak harshly. This is a joke, right? In your current state, what part of you is worthy of me? Don't try to disgust me. I clearly remember how you spoke to me in the last life. Luna looked at me with a hurt expression, her eyes wide. It was as if she couldn't believe I would say something like that. Her body trembled slightly. She probably hadn't expected me to be so resolute. After it was over, Luna seemed to have completely disappeared from my life and never reached out to me again. Days passed quietly one after another, as if everything had settled into dust. Perhaps Luna had resigned herself. I also knew clearly that my heart had long since turned to solid ice and would not be melted back for her. That day, I went to the restaurant for a gathering with my wife Sophia and several friends. After the gathering ended, we slowly walked out of the restaurant. The night street was lit by lights, people coming and going, a scene of bustle. Suddenly, a fierce argument broke out not far away. The voices were sharp and grating, shattering the night's noise and drawing everyone's attention. We couldn't help but curiously turn toward the sound. Across the street stood two familiar figures, locked in a heated dispute. On closer look, it turned out to be Dylan and Luna. Dylan's face was full of rage, his eyes wide open, veins faintly protruding on his forehead. He shouted angrily at Luna, continuously questioning her. Luna, what the hell are you trying to do? Why aren't you staying at home at night? And what the hell is wrong with you acting crazy out here? Luna's body trembled slightly, her eyes full of fury and grievance. Pointing with her finger at the woman beside Dylan, her voice had grown a little hoarse from agitation. Dylan, you bastard, who is she? Why are you hugging and cuddling? Doesn't she know you have a wife? Luna continued to curse, her voice growing louder, her emotions more agitated, tears sparkling in her eyes. You cheated on me. How could I possibly stay at home? Dylan looked full of disgust, frowned, and shielded the woman beside him. Mind your own business about me. Seeing you like this makes me sick. Neither human nor ghost. Marrying you is like cursing 8 generations of my family. Dylan's words were like a blade, ruthlessly stabbing at Luna's heart. Luna's pupils widened slightly, a flicker of pain and despair passing through her eyes, and her voice grew louder. You say I'm disgusting? If I've ended up like this now, isn't it because of you? If you hadn't been so despicably shameless and deceived me back then, would I have married you? Dylan looked completely unconcerned. Then go call the police. Tell them I committed fraud in marriage, so they'll arrest me. I don't believe the police would lock me up over this. Your car accident was entirely your own fault. Dylan sneered, a trace of coldness flashing in his eyes. I'll tell you this. If you push me too far, I'll divorce you immediately and you won't get a single cent. Luna completely lost control. She ignored everything and began sobbing loudly in the street, crying because I said 2 words to you. You're really annoying. Dylan muttered impatiently, then turned away without looking back and tugged the woman beside him away from the scene. I stood quietly to the side, a mocking smile tugging at the corner of my mouth. Seeing Luna's utterly distraught expression, I didn't feel much of anything. After all, this was the path she chose herself, and the situation now was of her own making. At this moment, my wife Sophia's voice, gentle and thick with jealousy, sounded in my ear. Your ex is crying like that. Aren't you going to go up and comfort her? A displeased look crossed her face as she stared at me intently. Maybe you too could rekindle your old flame. I looked relieved, holding my wife Sophia's hand tightly. What consolation! She and I are both things of the past. Every adult must take responsibility for their own choices. I stayed with my wife Sophia at the hospital during those days before delivery. I went downstairs to the little shop to buy a few things. At the hospital entrance, I suddenly saw Dylan lying on a stretcher covered in blood. The blood streamed down his body, staining a large area of the white sheet red. His face was as pale as paper, his brows tightly furrowed. The doctors and nurses hurriedly wheeled him toward the operating room. The nearby nurse jogged along, anxiously calling for people nearby to make way. It was only during the subsequent inquiry that we learned the whole sequence of events. It turned out that Dylan had gone to a bar the night before. He harbored malicious intent and, while the girl wasn't paying attention, slipped a drug into her drink. After the girl drank the drug cup, he guided her out of the bar. He took her to a nearby hotel. In the hotel room, Dylan paid no heed to the girl's struggles and committed that heinous act. When the girl's boyfriend found out, he immediately rounded up a few friends and stormed over to Dylan. Without saying a word, they charged at Dylan and beat him mercilessly. One of them in particular was especially brutal and directly attacked his private parts. Dylan writhed on the ground in pain, blood flowing freely, until he was taken to the hospital. Luna stood expressionless by the emergency room door, her gaze hollow and cold, not shedding a single tear. Seeing this scene, I shook my head and walked out of the hospital gate. Perhaps true letting go is exactly like this. When we see each other, we feel like indifferent strangers. All those past loves, hatreds, and grudges have, with the passage of time, gradually faded away in the long river of years. A cripple and a person getting their comeuppance. A perfect match made by fate.